Alright, hello everybody and welcome back to another round of Abstraction Cup, round of 16. We've got our final Sunday match before we are almost pretty much done with this weekend in particular, and what better way is there to close it off on yet another close match. It's going to be none other than the Sigma Boys against, we are not saying Arrows Peeps, but they literally beat them yesterday. We're seeing them fight the sound of Leyo tonight, so C23 versus C26. I have no idea how they're both down here in the losers bracket with players that are so good on both ends. I'm your host, Epic Man 2, and I'm going to be joined alongside Znow for this match. How's it going?
Hello. I'm doing quite well. I'm not sure what happened with the overlay. It is fixed here though, so I guess it's not a huge issue.
Yeah, I mean, from where we are, it seems like we're pretty much on a decent setup, so, you know, as long as it works, then it works, so.
Yeah,
this
is, from the looks of it, it's going to be a very close match with C23 and C26.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially with the matches we've been seeing so far, when we say it's a close match, then you know it's going to be a bit way too close for comfort, so, you know. Kind of interested to see how both these teams are going to be doing. Sound of Leyo is going to be winning these roles right off the bat. Going to see what they're going to be doing. I'd assume they want to try and go for their protects, although... Oh, actually, no. They're going to be doing the ban first as they protect Rice 6 and then ban LN3.
Honestly, that's a bit of a surprising ban. I feel like LN3 is probably one of the easiest LNs in comparison to like the other two LNs, just because LN1 is really techy, and LN2 could be a little bit awkward, especially with those like really awkward bursts.
Absolutely. I mean, Rise 6 is definitely one of those maps that pretty much... Oh, actually, no, that's not even being played. Okay, so... what was I even trying to say? Whoops, my bad. Okay,
Okay, wait. Let me just make sure the bans are correct. I think the info's a little bit shaky right now.
I mean, I can take a bit of a quick gander, so...
LN3, Rice 5.
Yeah, those are the bans.
Okay.
Rice 6 was protected, so... Makes sense. I mean, Sound of Leyo is definitely one of those teams that really has a strong show when it comes to these kind of Rice maps overall, especially with the likes of Yellow, who's at least shown their pros time and time again throughout this tournament so far that they are able to at least take on some of the more experienced players on these Rice maps alone, and just proving that they're not someone to just simply scoff at, as does look like we're going to be seeing the first pick from Sigma Boys, and we will see LN2 being dropped right on the dot.
This is an interesting choice to kind of start off, but I guess it does make sense. I think Nameless is a really good player when it comes to like LN stuff in general.
Yeah. I mean, especially, like, understanding Nameless, they pretty much came from a bit of a fresh mind, like, especially having seen their performances back in the 7-key Oceania World Cup for this year. They pretty much showcased that they are a really strong LN player, not only in 4-key, but also 7-key, which the skill is pretty much transferable over onto just these 4 keys alone, so... Pretty much all the more expected that Nameless would want to try and cover it for their team on going into a map like this, where it's going to be a lot more difficult, but they're off to a bit of a shaky start already, just going off the amount of grades we're seeing, but maybe that's just the setup they're using.
Yeah, that's very shaky. Usually don't see that. I'm not too sure what's happening, but hopefully things will stabilize soon.
What is...
You might want enough board.
We may need a board.
Yeah, I don't know where the referee is.
Bro. So, will we get this a bolt? Capiche? Please?
Referee. Ref, do something.
I have no idea what happened there. Okay. We are pretty far into the map, and Nameless just got back to playing. What?
I maybe it's like a thing where like he realized maybe the ref's not gonna abort. Maybe. Oh, I think maybe we just got it.
Oh, yeah, we did. There's no way.
Yeah, I think we just. Yeah, it looks like we just got it. I don't know where the ref was.
All right. Anyways, yeah. Doesn't seem so. Basically, for some context, just getting a bit of intel, it seems like Nameless Fnatic currently is playing outside their house. So that's going to explain why their setup is a little dicey this time around, as they are playing in a mall, and it is pretty much difficult to even be able to play, like, you know, with no headphones and also on their lap on the floor. So
yeah, not the ideal place to be playing your 4-key match at all.
Yeah, absolutely not. It's just crazy. But hey, at least we can get back into the action, so, you know, that's what matters.
Yeah, hopefully this time will be fun. Yeah, you can already see they're doing a little bit better in terms of the accuracy.
Absolutely. So, from what it looks like, Nameless off to a better start than before. Soundy did get a bit of a rougher start, but this time it's a lot more equalized between the two, with Nameless looking to have a bit of a small advantage going into this map, which definitely is going to open up for an interesting scenario, given that this is their first pick, I believe. So with this one being the first map of the entire round, this is going to matter a lot for both these teams when they want to set a bit of a bold impression going into a match like this, where they're pretty much evenly matched to the point where a lot of options that would usually seem viable are just a lot more riskier than usual because of the raw competition that we have in the losers bracket alone, because both these teams in general are facing tournament elimination should it come down to that. So we're gonna have to see how this one goes for the remainder as we're going past the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, like, with this tournament, we've just seen, like, a lot of these, like, crazy losers bracket matches, and, like, as we kind of keep going further on, it's just getting to get closer and closer, regardless if it's losers or winners. So it's one thing to kind of be expected, but as we continue on through this, the accuracies are just so close.
Yeah, the axes are still so close, and despite the different change of scene that Nameless is performing on, they're still doing really good to even keep just slightly afloat, just ahead of Soundy. Like, the fact that this is what we're seeing of our losers bracket matches, even when they're not at home, is genuinely a scary thing to think about, because how is it that both these players are just so tight in accuracy that this is the type of competition that we're seeing? We don't even know who has an actual advantage besides from Nameless just having like 500 points, and that's barely anything to mean at least anything objective. That's the problem.
Yeah, especially on a pick like this one, you always have to be like really careful, just because like it is a bit on the lengthier side, but also like the amount of notes that we're seeing, like even if it's 200 BPM density, which maybe like for this difficulty might be a bit on the lower side, you have to factor in that this is pretty non-stop. So stamina is going to be a huge factor in this pick like this one.
Yeah, especially with this one being one of the longer LN picks that we have in the entire round, and also by extension, some of the longest picks that we have outside of Hybrid 1 even. This definitely opens for a lot of really excruciating situations in matches where you're going to have to try your best to act through a lot of these patterns, just brute force a lot through these really odd density patterns that are just really not so conventional if you are used to your run-of-the-mill LN jump stream. This takes it and pushes it into another level, giving it that wild card characteristic that kind of sets it apart from all the other maps in the pool. And the advantage has only grown for Nameless on top of that. 1,000 points so far, and going into the final less than 20 seconds of the map, they might have it, but the scoreline can still decrease. They need to be careful.
Yeah, this is going to be flashbacks to my match from last night, where the lead was just so close on this pick. Yeah.
897.
Oh my god, it was just a great count.
Bro, the fact that Soundy would have beaten Nameless on the ratio battle by almost a full 100, but only lost because of the amount of graces. That's crazy. How does this
Yeah.
happen?
That's unfortunate. Honestly, maybe it might just be like some of those like really fast like mini Ellens that kind of come in, which could factor in some of like those like 200s. Because I know it's easy to kind of slip up on those.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just playing somehow setting the score still while you're literally in the middle of some random mall out there in where whatever place you are in the United States or something is just actually kind of insane. Coming to think about it,
Yeah.
how is it that like even the location of where you're playing just doesn't even matter? Like what have we come to?
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes these matches are like really like I'm not questionable, but it's just like the circumstance is just so wild.
Dude, literally. It's always like this scenario when it comes to a lot of these matches. There's just, I mean, in general, there's been tons of history behind, like, you know, a lot of matches taking place in really funny locations that some of the players in. Like, I remember one time in the Mania World Cup when Eliminate and I think it was Koshipin,
Oh,
they
they
were
were playing
playing
like
in
the
the
same
same
room.
exact
Yeah.
room. Yeah, that was like in the year that I played, bro. That was like a year and a half ago. And like somehow people just take it to a new extreme. They're not even playing at home. They're playing in a literal supermarket.
Yeah. No, I'm honestly, given that like these circumstances, honestly surprised that like Nameless is still doing really good. Just because I know like setups and whatnot can always be like a really important factor when it comes to playing, especially when like you're in a tournament setting and you need that like extra accuracy percentage.
Absolutely, and especially at points like this where it's going to start mattering a lot, especially as we go into Rise 6. We're going to be seeing our wildcard pick being thrown out into the limelight, as this is going to have Burger Dog switching in and alongside Yellow, so a full team swap out, as Burger Dog is also the first to choke on that as well. So far so good. Seems like a really solid lead for the side of Yellow, and that's only going to help them just facing off that one miss alone. Not looking to try and at least falter on the same way, as that's another miss that's added to the equation.
Yeah, Yellow's just gonna like completely destroy this, which I mean, it's Yellow. You have to expect they're gonna destroy basically any Rice chart. They can literally 9-9 beat into like probably almost grand finals or maybe even grand finals. But like even then, this accuracy is just insane.
Absolutely. It is just crazy seeing these caliber of players just competing so well in round 16, and somehow we still have so many good teams that literally need to be eliminated this early just because, yes, we see the potential, but they're literally matched against people that are literally around their skill level, which is probably one of the most insane things that I've seen of this tournament thus far. Just the fact that we have such a versatile amount of teams and players coming from all kinds of backgrounds, even the most unexpected ones, and they're all just freaking juking it out on this map. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, especially on a pick like this one, which is probably like one of the harder Rice picks, and especially with just like the kind of mixed streaming nature of it, can just make it a little bit more difficult, especially for like certain players who might not be comfortable with like streamier, dumpier stuff.
Precisely, and this one being the physical monster that it is a map that doesn't really let up until you actually reach the ending. I mean, it's definitely a really big change of pace from the likes of High Lotto's maps, as that's gonna be a 997k coming from Yellow on this map. Oh my god. 1 full free. It's 1-all now.
Yeah, literally, like the ratios are like so far apart. Like, what do you even do in a situation like this?
I mean, to be fair, in the defense of Sigma Boys, we did see them do really well in LM2
Oh, yeah.
following that fumble on the initial fumble, like with the mall and like whatever else. So it seems like surely Sigma Boys are able to take points off the LNs alone. So I would imagine maybe Bergdog, despite his name being Bergdog, is gonna struggle a little bit against the likes of Yellow, considering the sheer difference in terms of physicality that separates these two players. And I would assume maybe Single Boys would find themselves more at home going into some of these LN maps and maybe other things like maybe Hybrid 1, for example. That's like the most coordination-oriented map of the entire Hybrid pool, if I want to say.
Yeah, it's just gonna be like a huge uphill battle on the Rice, but the LN is gonna be one of those like, honestly, I want to say scarier sections of the pool, just because like if LN2 is to indicate anything, the LNs and hybrids could get really close, and if they're not careful, it could potentially go to the sound of Leyo.
Absolutely, and that's something that they do not want to risk this early on because they want to try and keep themselves in the losers bracket for as long as possible, especially in a tournament like this where you're going to have to be facing off against so many good players after good players. It seems like we are going to be seeing a bit of a curveball. We're going to be seeing Hybrid 3 being chosen instead, so that's going to be a Yaranizer being thrown out, and it seems like we're going to be seeing Nameless come back in for this one against Yellow, I'm assuming.
Kind of an interesting pick. I don't know if I like it too much, just because it's probably like one of the more like simpler picks in terms of like the Alliance and Hybrids, which I think they're going to want to kind of stay away from, because there's the potential chance that Yellow could come in, and they're actually really good when it comes to like these like simpler Alliance Hybrids.
Absolutely. I mean, especially with this hybrid alone, this is like the most stream-oriented one out of the others. Like, dare I say conventional, but the issue is that it is really fast, and the map itself is only 2 minutes long. And the fact that, you know, this does come from the likes of the Project Sekai Ultimate Song Contest from a while ago. The song itself by default is going to be incredibly difficult because of how much it actually changes, the rhythm changes, and also just like a variety of things that are just represented within this map alone. So far so good. Early advantage for the likes of Soundy by only a few hundred points, and that bias is basically lingering there for a little bit, but Nameless is holding their tracks right now, not looking to try and let him get away with it so easily, as it's basically down to the center.
Yeah, especially at a pick like this one, which is, like I said earlier, it's like one of the simpler ones, so the actually potential on a pick like this one for both players is going to be really high. They just have to be careful not to choke. And I guess in the case of Soundy, not drop 200s like we saw in LN2, which I don't think should be much of an issue. Although there's like some of these like tricky mini jacks that we see, and these like shields as well.
Absolutely, and the map only just really capitalizes further upon these patterns as it just keeps going on. That's basically going to be above 1,000 points for the favor of Soundy for the time being. And just going into that jump throw, that's going to jump scare Nameless a little bit, but that's a double miss?
Yeah,
huh?
I guess. I mean,
fired.
I guess it makes sense. I tend to have a little bit of trouble like getting into that transition, usually dropping like a great maybe. But I guess for these players, in this case, it's going to be a miss. But even then, it's not going to do anything just because, like we said, they both missed.
Absolutely. Like, they both missed, so there isn't really any losses to be taken from that. If anything, it just neutralizes everything, which just makes it all the more worse, because that basically means there is no visible advantage to just take upon this section alone as we go into the ending section, and this is the one point where everyone's going to have to really start watching themselves down. They only has 1,000 points in their favor. They cannot drop right now. This is going to hurt. Oh, okay.
Unfortunate at the end as well, but that's going to give it to the side of Leyo, giving them their first breakpoint of this match.
And a strong one to take as well, as it does look like Leyo wants to try and at least solidify their status on this match as soon as possible, trying to close it out as soon as possible before things get a little too dangerous, because I know for a fact that Nameless and Burger Dog are able to throw hands on a variety of picks if it does come down to at least having the right physicality and the right mind space for it as well. So I would imagine with Leyo being next to pick, they could probably feel at home going back into Rice category. Oh, why they go in Rice 3? Okay, sure, why not?
Honestly, that makes sense to me. I mean, with someone like Yellow who can easily get like really high accuracies, I would assume Rice 3 is probably going to be one of those picks where they're actually going to be at the highest that it could be.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen it time and time again throughout this entire weekend that this map was probably one of the most brutal picks that anyone could go into. We've seen so many points on this map that were won by only 2 perfects. And it kept happening all throughout.
Yeah, I mean, given that it's a Jack pick, I guess anything could happen. I know it's easy for players to like get like a 50 or just a bunch of misjudgments just because they like mistap one section.
Yeah, it's just crazy because of how this map alone, like this map in principle, is just pretty much bare bones core jack with a lot of these free no anchors. But despite the fact that these jacks can just become strenuous the longer you go into them for, people have just been finding ways to just go about them anyways. It doesn't even matter if it has some of these really tight bursts that really can jump scare everyone. It just comes down to roll consistency for 2 minutes long and just sticks around that for that amount of time.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, like those 3 no anchors are gonna matter so much just because, like you said, it's gonna add that continuous strain, and it adds like a bit of technicality to these jacks, which I think we've been starting to see a little bit more when it comes to like modern day tournament core jack. So it adds like that aspect of control, which I think slowly is gonna start to creep into like tournaments overall.
Yeah, and especially with this map alone, this pretty much pushes that. That's pretty much pushes upon that narrative that core jack maps are pretty much one of the simplest picks you could go for. But even the simplicity in this case is the worst enemy of all, because so far it seems like both Nameless and Yellow are literally just about at the same accuracy. There's a small advantage that Yellow gets of going off some misjudges that Nameless seems to have gotten, but at the same time, still a really unsafe lead at that, even if it comes down to a miss or like just comes down to an FC, if anything.
Yeah, this is really scary to see, but I guess this would be like one of those picks that Nameless and Burger Dog are going to really want to get, just given that they did lose a breakpoint on Hybrid 3, but we're just gonna have to wait and see, especially on a pick like this one where consistency is going to be key.
Absolutely, and it's gonna become one of the most important aspects to really look out for on this map alone, as Yellow has the advantage now by a solid amount, just pushing nearly 2,000 points, but at the same time, it's still really small that any mistake coming out from Yellow can really switch things around at a point where they really cannot afford it. But I think at this point, like, if it does come down to Yellow FCing right now, then they pretty much have it all together, assuming that Nameless is going to struggle to be able to bring it back together. Just go off the ratio game alone, because we are talking that a high 99k score is literally just facing against a 99k.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah. 19. Okay. Yeah.
19. Well,
yeah.
That's even lower.
Yeah.
Dude, I swear, every time I see this map being played, there's always one player that gets even lower ratio than the previous.
Yeah,
I saw 21 perfects coming out from Zubin. I know it's Korchak, but like this is just really cursed to see at this stage. Like, oh my god, I should have made this map so much harder, man. Holy god. Huh?
I mean, it's one of the more simpler picks, like you said, so I think it's fine. I mean, we have like that aspect of finger control, which is needed so much more on a pick like this one than you would think, just because one, you need to make sure that you're hitting consistently, and two, you have those anchors, which you could easily simplify.
Indeed, it is what adds a little bit of extra flair on these kinds of maps overall, and I definitely think that it's still some untapped market within Tournament Core Jack overall. So that said, it's pretty much 3-1 in the favor of Sound of Leyo for the time being, as they pretty much won off of all the other picks that they had. So I think they're pretty much coming to a point where we're gonna have to really see what they go for, but it seems like we're seeing Rice 2 come out from Sigma Boys instead.
Interesting. Okay, I don't know if I like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think following off of some of these other maps we've had so far, it makes sense on paper, but at the same time, if we're talking about, like, you know, in general, this is it's once again going to be a really uphill battle for the likes of Sigma Boys, assuming we were to... Okay, I'm assuming Burger Dog's going to be playing this one, and we're going to be seeing Yellow on this map as well.
I don't know. I don't really like this pick. Just because, I mean, we saw what happened with Rice. Was it Rice 3?
Yeah, Rice 3.
Yeah, so we already know that Yellow has a huge advantage when it comes to like these like easier Rice picks in terms of like holding ratio. Although this one's still really hard with some like the bursts that come in. And we've already seen like the difference between accuracy when it comes to Burger Dog and Yellow.
Yeah, indeed. Like, this is kind of the main worry that I have with a map like this because of the fact that we've seen the Burger Dog kind of struggles a little bit in terms of the physicality aspect, as opposed to Yellow, who's literally able to keep on the same bar as a variety of other well-known MWC players in this type of difficulty. But despite it actually seems like it's actually really close for now. The physicality actually kind of favoring Yellow a little bit, but it's only by a few hundred points, as we still see glimmers of hope going back into the favor of Burger Dog, but only for a nanosecond, if anything.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to kind of wait and see how this goes. I mean, like we said, yeah, honestly, anything could really happen.
Yep, and when anything can really happen, we mean that anything really, literally, figuratively, and philosophically could happen. And that's kind of the point which a lot of players can pretty much struggle on, just because of the fact that we've seen from a lot of these maps that they're very heavy on the consistency aspect. And I would assume that, like, you know, this is pretty much the point where a lot of players really begin to struggle, just because this is the point where we approach the mid-game level of maps, and it only just continues to ramp up from here with how hard these map pools can get and how good these players are. So it's really just about trying and at least balance them out, but at the same time, it's just really difficult on map pools like this, really.
Yeah, like you said, as we kind of keep going on, skill caps are going to kind of be put on some players, and it's going to be one of those things where you can't really do much about it. But as we kind of continue on through this, Yellow's still holding up 0.90, 92, and Burger Dog was trying to kind of climb up, but like we said earlier, it's just the kind of accuracy disadvantage that he has that's going to unfortunately put him here.
Yeah, and that accuracy disadvantage alone is pretty much going to cement the point for Yellow, if it does not come down to any more mistakes, because we've seen Yellow throughout this whole match, and so far they've pretty much proven time and time again that they are as strong as day one going into this tournament, and also throughout the third impact on top of that as well. So especially having faced the likes of Unto Mai literally yesterday, they almost went to a tiebreaker against them. So I think at this point, Leyo at least has some time to breathe, just going off the fact that they don't really need to worry about how hard this match is going to be to win, unless they're facing on an LN-centric pick, if anything.
Yeah, and especially just given like what we've been seeing, I really doubt we'll see an LN pick being chosen next, trying to maybe capitalize off this potential match point that they'll be able to get.
Yeah, exactly. It's just... I mean, the map's pretty much done. 17,000 points in the favor of Yellow, and at this point, literally nothing's gonna happen. The damage has already been done. It's pretty much irreversible, as much as I hate to say it, and that's a 997k coming out from Yellow on Taka's Pelicantil. Match point situation already, and we're barely even. We're only just hitting the halfway mark of this hour alone.
Yeah.
Now they pretty much have the luxury of the next pick.
Yeah, but it is going to be Leo's pick. Maybe they want to go for something like Rice 1, or maybe Hybrid 2.
Oh, okay. Damn, that is a bit of an interesting choice. I think it makes sense, considering that I would assume Leyo, like in a situation like this, would still want to try and avoid like some of these picks that can at least work for the Sigma Boys, because we have seen that they're really going to the Rise category, especially when it comes to the accuracy alone. But going for Hybrid 2 is a bit of an interesting choice, but it's gonna heavily depend on how Nameless does in this, because they, once again, they are really good when it comes to a bunch of these more physical LNs, kind of patterns, just the overall nature of this map being very technical and kind of abrasive in a variety of parts. So maybe this might actually go in the favor of Sigma Boys. I feel that this one might be favoring them a little more, in my opinion, but we'll just have to see how this unfolds, I think.
Yeah, honestly, I just don't know if I like this pick, just because it's really choky as well.
Yeah, it's easier to choke on this map than to even keep a full combo. That's pretty much the issue with a map like Car Crash and Siren, just because of the tuition that you really get dealt with on these patterns alone. So gonna be the one thing that both players are gonna have to keep into account going throughout this map, as the good luck have funs have been sent out. The bar for the map is flashing white. The arrows will go down, and all we have is just this intro. Watch these Ellen streams. Do not miss a single note on it. You should be fine. So for the time being, looks like both players are off to a bit of the start. Still not much information we can really gather here. It's only really early minutes, early seconds of the map, if anything. Just a little bit of the anchors being thrown out. Some jacks, and then this section comes in. This is the point where we get a lot more of these mini jacks thrown in, as now the scoreline is actually dancing between the two. Nameless and Soundy basically keeping an eye for each other. Nameless did drop a little bit in accuracy as opposed to Soundy on this map alone, which is going to make it a little tougher for them to be able to take the point. But for the time being, still good that it's only a minuscule lead, because at any point Soundy drops, this can go back at any second really easily.
Yeah, I mean, especially just because like we've only kind of started, and a lot of this chart just gets really tricky and very like finger control heavy.
Yeah, when that finger control aspect is introduced on this map alone, it just does not let up for a long time. As we go into this next section, this introduces a lot more of these abrasive shields. It seems like there's going to be suffering on both ends for the side of, from what it looks like. Soundy is dropping a little bit, dropped like 0.10% accuracy, but now they're dropping even further, and that's going to bring the lead really dangerously close to the side of Nameless Fnatic if it does come down to this potentially being what can keep the Sigma Boys back in the equation for a little longer. It's just gonna have to come down to the final quarter, which is gonna be one of the most important parts of the map. There's no way that Soundy can mess this one up. They're literally running out of gas. They need to keep this up no matter what.
Yeah, and especially as we get through this section, which becomes a lot more techy than some of the other parts, with a lot of that kind of finger control on like the one-handed side. But even with like these shields becoming a little bit more like control-y compared to earlier.
Yeah, and then once that's done, we literally get introduced to this section of these really intense Ellen streams with overlapping releases after another. It seems like the damage has been done. It's only 1,000 points in the favor of Soundy, but can it be possible for Nameless to be able to take it? Unfortunately, it's not, as it's literally just going to be the final drop. 845 points is won by the sound of Leyo, and thus, despite the close ratio, bro, these results are actually so close. What?
Yeah, now this time it was like more on the ratio side rather than that kind of great count. They basically are just one great away.
Bro, one great off and literally a difference of 30 perfects. That's what my notes are saying here. That's unfortunate, man.
Yeah, it's kind of an unfortunate way to go out, but both these players doing well. Well, unfortunately, it is a loser's bracket, so they're going to have to say goodbye to one team.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate at the end of the day. There was a lot of potential that we have seen from the likes of Sigma Boys overall, especially when it comes to the LN department overall. Some untapped market for some players that we didn't even know could also play 4K at that as well, as the sound of Leyo is going to use this moment to come out with an upset victory and make it into the quarterfinals as losers bracket to face that of Cosmic Princess Kagu, yeah, which how are they even facing in this bracket, dude? Oh no, that's crazy.
Yeah, these brackets matches are gonna be interesting. There's a lot of teams there that like you wouldn't think would be there.
Exactly. That's just the caliber of players that we see throughout this tournament. Just the fact that we have good teams back to back, and despite it, there can only be 3 winning teams at the end of this tournament that gets all the dough to themselves. But that's gonna pretty much do it for this block of matches we had all throughout the Sunday, as this is going to pretty much conclude majority of matches that we had for the round of 16 weekend. The only one we have remaining will be tomorrow at 14 UTC, which is going to be none other than Chicken Bread. So that's Fear and J-Lai facing against Lakana Asada. So that's Tevilkit and Dev. So this one is also a losers bracket match. We see some absolute veterans in tournaments versus probably the American equivalent of invading Saragi at that point. So not sure if that one's going to be streamed because the showcase will be around that same time as well. But we hope you all keep on the lookout for that one as well. May as well be another competitive match we have in the waiting list.
Yeah, but I guess with that being said, we can end things off unless you have anything else to say.
Chicken burger.
Okay. But we'll be seeing you next time. See ya.
Yeah, thank you all. Yeah, thank you all so much once again for tuning in. We hope to catch you all later. Thank you all once again, and have a great day. Bye-bye.